isn't too pressing, even with our late start. So I think we're going to have time. So don't feel like you have to get it all in the first time I call on our station. That's all I have for right now. We are well prepared and ready, so I don't think our delay is going to extend too much farther. My apologies for the delay we're already amidst, but I think we'll have that resolved very quickly, and I'll see you all again soon. Additionally, there's a bit going on. This is an active place. They're not going to stop for our programs, so that's it. If you need to, make sure we're getting our voices up here to who needs to hear your questions. But obviously, this is an active site doing a lot of important work, and that will not be stopping for our program.
Good morning. My name is Brother Gary Wagner. I'm the Executive Director of the Capuchin Soup Kitchen. The Capuchin Soup Kitchen has been serving people in Detroit since the early days of the Great Depression. Even when Detroit was one of the wealthiest cities, there were still people that we were able to serve. And we are grateful to have the Attorney General Nessel here and a representative and Jerry Brisson of Gleaners as we're dealing with some significant issues right now. And as the Soup Kitchen, we try to do what we can, but there are gaps that we simply will not be able to fill with the loss of SNAP benefits. And so with that, I want to welcome Attorney General Nessel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brother Gary. Thank you so much. So earlier this week, I joined attorneys general and governors from 25 states in requesting a temporary restraining order and filing a lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture and its Secretary, Brooke Rollins, for unlawfully suspending the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or the SNAP program, for the duration of the federal government shutdown. Now, that case was argued yesterday in front of Judge Indira Talwani from the U.S. District Court of Massachusetts, and we are waiting with bated breath for her order and her opinion. Now, I'm here today at the Capuchin Services Center with State Representative Tanya Myers-Phillips and Jerry Brisson, the president and the CEO of Gleaners Community Food Bank of Southeastern Michigan. And I believe the reputation of these organizations really speaks for themselves, but I'd like to share some of their service statistics just to underscore how bad the need is here in Detroit. In 2024, Gleaners distributed 43 million pounds of food, serving over 1 million households a year. And Capuchin, who is, of course, graciously hosting us today, has been serving the Detroit community since 1929. Last year, they supplied nearly 3.4 million pounds of food to residents through their food pantry, and they fed about 1,000 people each and every day through their soup kitchens. That's amazing. Statistics show that 1 in 9 Americans are food insecure, and unfortunately that's the scope of the problem with a fully funded SNAP program. As you most likely know, we took swift action with the USDA when they announced the SNAP benefits would not be paid out effective November 1st, tomorrow, leaving 42 million Americans to wonder how they're going to put food on their tables next week. Now, here at home, SNAP supports 1.4 million Michiganders every month, and our suit demands that the Trump administration utilize the contingency emergency funds that Congress has appropriated to ensure SNAP benefits are not interrupted. And right now, if you visit the USDA website, you'll be met with a shockingly political and hostile message claiming that, quote, the well has run dry. But that is a lie. The 2024 congressionally authorized appropriation bill, as well as the 2025 continuing resolution, collectively designates a reserve $6 billion to, quote, carry out program operations. And according to legal documents filed by the USDA yesterday, approximately $5.25 billion of this fund remains available. Additionally, as of October 8th, the USDA had $23 billion in appropriated funds under Section 32 of the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1935, a farm subsidy program, with statutory authority to transfer these funds to other programs. Where Congress has clearly spoken to provide that SNAP benefits should continue even during a government shutdown, the USDA does not have the authority to say otherwise. Now, based on the hearing yesterday, we remain very optimistic that the judge will grant us a temporary restraining order, and the judge indicated that she would issue a quick ruling. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services believes it will take approximately 3 days to deposit SNAP funds onto Michigan's bridge card. So unfortunately, the remedy, even if it's ordered today, may not be quick enough for tomorrow's scheduled deposits. In fact, we know it won't. But we also know that, unfortunately, the $5.2 remaining in the emergency fund is not enough to cover the nation's SNAP responsibility for the entire month. So if the shutdown is not resolved, we may be back here again in a few weeks. Any pause in food benefits, even just for a day, will cause immediate harm to nearly 13% of our state. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about who these people are that will be impacted. It's over 492,000 children, over 38,000 veterans. Seniors are 36% of the recipients, and 51% of those households have a person with a disability. And despite claims that these families are folks who either refuse to work or are here with an illegal resident status, let me be abundantly clear about this. 78% of Michigan SNAP households include someone who has an earned income, and every recipient must be either a U.S. citizen or have qualified non-citizen resident status. These cuts are coming on the backs of rising inflation, higher grocery bills, and soon a dramatic increase in healthcare premiums. And it's also following record cuts to our food banks, who work day and night to ensure that no one in our communities goes hungry, and who will be in even more demand than ever come tomorrow. Food banks across the state will tell you that they've received significantly less USDA donated food this year than years past. And since taking office, the Trump administration has cut or paused nearly $1 billion in money to support food banks, and it's canceled thousands of USDA produce deliveries nationwide, including a reported 3 million pounds of food that should have come to Michigan just through August. And while I believe in providing SNAP benefits as a moral issue, there's also an economic argument to be made as well. The SNAP program supports over 375,000 jobs for American farmers, food distributors, and retailers as well. And every SNAP dollar spent in Michigan is a dollar into the pockets of our state's 10,000 SNAP-approved retailers. And then investment goes on to generate 154% return on investment for the surrounding communities. And I want to talk about something that we haven't really discussed, and that's what we unfortunately can anticipate in seeing probably a rise in retail crime should this come to pass, where people are not getting their SNAP benefits and families get desperate. And that costs money too. These cuts force our family, our friends, our neighbors to prioritize between necessities they wouldn't otherwise have to choose between. Next week, people will be forced to decide between buying groceries or filling prescriptions, or between going into work as scheduled or having to call off or call in and say they can't come because they have to get to a food bank while the food bank is open. If you or someone you know is impacted, there are resources available. Please call the United Way at 211, or a food bank near you can find at fbcmich.org. The Democratic AGs are doing what we can, using the levers of the law to hold this administration accountable and to protect our residents. And on a personal note, I would like to implore all of you to do everything you can. And please, if you're able, please support your local food pantry, either through monetary donations, non-perishable food items, or with your time by volunteering. If the prospect of tens of millions of Americans going hungry is not motivation for us to come together in a bipartisan fashion and act, I don't know what is. I want to say this one additional thing. If you are a person who waits to the end of the year to make, your donations or contributions to a nonprofit, please don't wait until the end of the year. Do it now, and make sure that you're emphasizing donations to food banks. That's where the need is most great right now. So with that, I'd like to turn things over to State Representative Tanya Meyer Phillips.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Tanya Myers Phillips, and I am proud to represent Michigan's 7th House District, which comprises the northeast side of Detroit. This Capuchin facility serves men and women and residents in my district, my community members. It also serves the central South 7th House District. Also is comprised of the central area of Detroit and the entire cities of Highland Park and Hamtramck. It's an honor to represent these families. I'm here today to talk about a crisis, a man-made crisis. Tomorrow, as we know, 1.4 million Michiganders are going to be in a position where they won't have enough food. Children, elders, veterans, persons with disabilities, are going to be left without enough food to eat. And that's a shame, and it's preventable. I want to speak about the actions that myself and my colleagues are taking to have our neighbors back, to have our communities back. Because this is something that we can't just go on. It's not politics as usual. It's not business as usual. People are hungry. Some people will be ill. Some people may even die. This is serious. That's why I was compelled to introduce legislation to create an emergency SNAP fund, because hunger can't wait. Hunger doesn't wait on politics. So my bill, House Bill 5391, creates an emergency SNAP fund that will provide enough resources to get SNAP recipients through the end of the year, through the holiday season. My colleagues have introduced bills to provide a large infusion of financial resources for the Food Bank Council of Michigan and also local food pantries like this one here. So House Democrats have sprung into action. We can't wait. When we came in this morning, when everybody came in this morning, we saw mothers. If a child is going hungry at school, can we tell their belly to stop grumbling? No. If a baby needs formula, can we tell that baby to wait until Washington Republicans work this out? No, we can't. We can't wait. This is inexcusable. I also want to highlight actions my colleagues in the Senate have taken. Yesterday, House Senate Democrats passed a package offering $70 million worth of relief. It's passed. It's ready to go. It can come on over to the House and be signed and by our House colleagues, voted out by the House and signed by the governor. That will provide cash assistance and large infusions to our frontliners here, the food banks who are on the ground, meeting people in their immediate area need. Our Governor Gretchen Whitmer, is providing $4.5 million through executive action that will be able to be distributed to food pantries in every county. And our Attorney General, thank God for Dana Nessel, our Attorney General, who's on the front lines and using her ability to represent us in court to get those permanent fixes. So Democrats are acting, and we're acting, I'm acting, again, not because this is a partisan thing, it's the right thing to do. Every one of my colleagues has individuals and families in their legislative districts. All 110 legislative districts have individuals that need these benefits now. Not maybe a week from now, not maybe 2 weeks from now, not maybe a couple of months from now when the litigation is settled. Now. We need to do it now. Because hunger knows no boundaries. Hunger does not respect party lines. Hunger is neither red nor is it blue. And the humane thing to do is to act now and allow people to be fed. I'm sad that my colleague, Speaker Hall, called the Senate legislation fake. Hunger is not fake. It's real. And it's going to get real for many people, over 1 million people tomorrow. So I'm here calling on my colleagues to act, to put funds in people's wallets to feed their families, to take care of their health. Even going hungry for a day or two, people can begin to have irreversible health impacts and health effects. We can't wait. So I'm calling my colleagues to action. I'm calling members of the general public to action to contact your legislative representatives in the state and in Congress and tell them hunger cannot wait. I want to pass it over to Brother Jerry. Thank God for Brother Jerry doing the good work here from the Capuchin Food Kitchen. Thank you so much.
Well, I don't want to get the soup kitchen implicated. I was in the Capuchin Formation Program years ago, but Brother Gary, just Jerry. So I want to thank you and the Capuchins for all you do, and I want to thank you for all of the hard work and the I'm just going to say passionate caring for this issue. It's critically important. And in particular, today I want to thank you, Attorney General Nessel, for really stepping up with other states to require the USDA to use the resources they have to ensure that SNAP benefits are funded. You know, we don't have to create a new tax for this. The money's actually there. So it just has to be shoop, shoop, you know, a little paperwork. I know blisters and everything is tough, but it can be done, right? The money's there. So, and it's appropriate to insist that this critical help be provided, right? So for weeks, Gleaners has been working with our partners, hoping that we wouldn't be managing this sudden loss of resources in our community. And I mean hoping. And everyone who's asked us anything about what they could do, we've said the same thing. Open the government. It is the answer. All of this extra work is really not necessary. It is just additional burden for something that should already have been done based on how important this issue is. We don't need extra burdens in this work. But this, all of this, is extra burden that's not necessary. So, why do we want to take action? Well, it's not, or let's just put it another way. We're not bothered by having more work. We have a lot of work to do. We always have a lot of work to do. We're not bothered by the work. But we are bothered because we know how hard it is when households live on a tight budget. And we also know that the people who come to us for help are aspirational. And they use the resources they have to bring the success they need in their life. And they cobble together these resources with amazing facility. And it is incredible to see how diligent and how hardworking and how thoughtful the people are that come for help. It is not easy what they have to manage every day in their life. And if you ask them how they're doing, you know what most of them will tell you? I am blessed. And it's a true feeling. People are amazing. And if you knew them, you would not let them go hungry. For whatever moral reason you might have to not let them go hungry, that's fine. But I mean, just get to know people. And you're going to go, I want that person to be helped because they're an amazing person with an amazing attitude who's managing a lot, and I just want to help. That's the truth. All right. We know the investments we make in our neighbors lift the whole community, not just the people getting help. And so if we want to continue powerful communities that really make a difference and reach the pinnacle of their success, we have to lift the whole community, and these programs do lift the whole community. So what now? Now we're going to hope the government reopens soon. It's what we hoped last week. It's what we hoped in the week before last, and we're still hoping, right? We hope that all federal workers can get paid for their service. We hope that programs like SNAP that lift people to their best success are put back in order. We're doing that now. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep giving that message. In the meantime, we're working on a plan with our partner agencies like the Capuchin Soup Kitchen, the Pantry, Soup Kitchen, shelters, and others to double our reach during this crisis. We have funding commitments that will help tremendously, including the funding announced by the governor yesterday. And we're watching carefully all the other things that are happening, believe me. We're working with the United Way and many corporate partners who want to be involved if they can do anything to help. And they're providing needed funds and volunteers for this effort that encourage us as we look at this looming issue that's only going to get worse as every day goes by. But to be clear, it will take the whole community doing what they can to get us through this moment. So if you can do one thing, be kind. Check on your neighbors. Make sure the people around you are taken care of. If you can do two things, be generous to the organizations that are doing this work now. Not just food banks, your local pantries. You'll see who they are. Things are happening at the schools. People are starting to mobilize. When you see it happening, if you can do that second thing, be generous and support the work that's going on to get through this moment. And if you can do three things, support anything you can to encourage the reopening of the government. All of this effort is unnecessary, except that it's been made necessary, and so we will do what we have to do. But that's not the best solution. It's not the cheapest solution. It's not the most efficient solution. It's not the solution that's going to reach everybody that needs to be reached. So let's not pretend that no matter how hard we try is enough. That SNAP program helps so many people. It is a massively important program, and we're not going to replace it no matter how hard we try at the food bank level. That doesn't mean we're not going to push hard. We are. And all of our partners are pushing hard, and we will be on the front lines like we always are for the people we serve. But let's get the government open, okay? But be kind. Be kind. Check on your neighbors. So I just want to say thank you for joining us today, and now I will turn the microphone back over to our Attorney General.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Much appreciated. And thanks to the representative for her remarks. Happy to take questions.
Yeah, Clara.
Claire Henderson, Detroit Free Press. Attorney General Nessel, did you have any conversations with Governor Whitmer before the lawsuit was filed? And how did that go? And did you invite her to join as a plaintiff?
Yeah, so my office is always in contact with the EOG, with the governor's office, whenever we file a lawsuit. And generally how it works is I work with my colleague AGs in putting the lawsuit together, and at whatever point we feel like we are pretty sure that we're going to sign on, we contact the governor's office to let the governor's office know about all the details and what assistance we're going to need from various agencies. In this case, maybe MDHHS, and then we extend I would say invitation that this case be made State of Michigan as a plaintiff. And of course, in order for it to be State of Michigan, it does require the sign-on of the governor versus the people of the state of Michigan, which that's an indicator that it's the Attorney General bringing the case, but that the governor's office has not signed on. This is a State of Michigan case.
Yeah, Jamal.
Mr. Brisson, State Rep Myers Phillips mentioned the governor's emergency announcement of $4.5 million. I understand that has to go to the Food Council of Michigan, Food Bank Council of Michigan. Can you give some context into how that will trickle down and how organizations like Leaders will prioritize that?
Yeah. So the Food Bank Council is the sort of the trade association for all the food banks in Michigan. There's 7 food banks and there's thousands of pantries.
83 counties.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you're ahead of me. So every county in Michigan is served by a food bank and its partner agencies. So the one of the roles of the Food Bank Council is to be a central repository of funds when they're available, and a lot of the work they do is to pass through funds, either down through federal process or through state process, to food banks. And we actually have a pre-established process in place for how those funds get distributed out. It's called the goal factor, and that's based on how much poverty each food bank is dealing with in the counties they serve. So this process will be similar. Once we know when we're going to get the funds and whatever restrictions are put on the funds, because usually it'll pass through a government agency. We don't have all the details on that now, exactly what that's going to be and what the requirements are going to be, what the reporting is going to be for those funds, but we know that will be coming together soon. Once we get that, we will then know this is how we can leverage those dollars. In the meantime, the food banks are meeting together to talk about the kinds of things we can each do locally to maximize our response. And I think there's even a call at 11 o'clock today to even further hone, here's specifically what we're going to do and how it's going to trickle down. I know for Gleaners specifically, a huge part of our plan is to get more resources to our network. And the reason is because when people need help, the first place they go is to someplace they already know. So if they already know food is being distributed, we want to make sure those places get food, because that's where people are going to show up. So the first line of response is going to be about how do we make sure we're supporting the agencies that are meeting people where they are as they show up, have things in the background to bring to the table if way more people show up than we think, and manage those things on a day in, day out basis. We'll learn more. This is the first time. I've been in this work for 40 years, and this is the first time the SNAP program has not been funded. So we're going to learn some things that we don't know yet about just how many people are coming out and when, and that will continue to form and inform our response.
Thank you. I have Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren Gibbons with Bridge, Michigan. Attorney General, could you explain a little bit more about the logistics of why, even if the contingency funds were released right now, why there would still be a delay in funds here for Michigan?
Yeah, my understanding is there's a delay from the time that USDA gets this over to MDHHS, and then the money is loaded onto the bridge cards. That, generally speaking, that's a staggered process. So it's not like it all happens for everyone who is a SNAP recipient on the same day at the same time. They usually stagger that out. And, there's some complications with that process. 3 days is optimistic. I think that's the shortest period of time. It could actually take a couple weeks, my understanding. I just want to make sure with my staff that I'm not misrepresenting anything, because that is my understanding.
Yeah, DHHS says it's approximately 3 days from when they receive the money.
Right. I mean, it takes time to get this done, and it just can't be done overnight. And that's why, unfortunately, we really are going to have to, rely on the food banks and the food pantries to cover the time period. Even in the event that we are successful in our lawsuit, I anticipate actually that we will be some very favorable remarks from the judge. And I do want to say, because Jerry, you talked about how this has never happened before. And you're right, it has never happened before, including during a shutdown that took place under the last Trump administration, where they used the contingency funds. So again, for the argument to be now, oh, that's not what the contingency funds are there for, that's exactly what they're there for. And I think the administration knows that, and I think that's why the judge was highly skeptical of the arguments being made by the Department of Justice.
Thank you. Julia?
Julia Carney, the Detroit News. Do you expect the reach of the judge's eventual ruling to be affected by the U.S. Supreme Court's earlier decision limiting nationwide injunctions? And if so, what do you expect the practical effects of that earlier decision to be on the applicability and the reach of this judge's ruling?
So that's a great question. And what you're talking about is the CASA case, which was actually about birthright citizenship, but it was not heard on the merits of the case before the United States Supreme Court. It was heard on the issue of national injunctive relief. And what the court really said is that if you are not a plaintiff in the case, then you are not eligible for the relief that's granted. So theoretically, if you have 23 state attorneys general plus 3 additional states that don't have Democratic AGs but have a Democratic governor, and that's Kansas, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania, those are all the states that are participants in this lawsuit. Theoretically, what could happen is that for that money, it only gets distributed to those, 23 states plus 3, 26 states in total, and not to the remaining 24 states. However, I don't think that the Trump administration will do that. What they'll probably do is they'll just distribute it, to all 50 states, possibly on a pro rata basis. We've seen this happen before when you have just the states with Democratic AGs bring a case, and we're successful, and then rather than allow, whether it's grant funding or whether it's programming or whatever it is, rather than allow that just to go to the states with Democratic AGs, they end up kind of just folding and providing it to all 50 states for political reasons I'm sure you can understand and imagine.
I'm sorry, Damon Fernandez from Local 4 News here in Detroit. Quick question for you, Attorney General Nessel. Since you mentioned retail theft, I know there have been some discussions across social media. We have not been able to verify them here locally, but are you aware of any retailers across the state who've expressed concern about the SNAP cutoffs going into November and announcing that they may be limiting their store operation hours or bringing in extra security because of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know we have some DPD officers here today. I don't know if they have heard anything related to that. I have not heard that from the retailers. I am just this is based on my concerns and my fears that people will become desperate when they don't have any food to eat. And we know when that happens that retail crimes, retail fraud crimes rise. And so, while I certainly hope that doesn't happen, and I certainly hope that we're able to sort of fill the gap so that people don't feel as though they're so desperate that they actually have to commit crimes in order to feed themselves and their family members, it would stand to reason that that is a potential outcome, and it's an outcome that nobody wants to see happen. In fact, I was just reading again today about how all sorts of criminal activity has decreased markedly, and that even people's perception, people understand and they see the dramatic decrease in crime. Certainly, we don't want this, government shutdown to be responsible for crime increasing. But I do want to say, with all due respect, Jerry, I stand with the United States Senate Democrats who are holding out because they don't want tens of millions of people to lose their health care. And, this is a terrible choice to be made. And it's not just that, it's a false choice to say that we can't afford to have ACA subsidies, which are badly needed so that people don't have their health care premiums double or even triple, and feeding people who are SNAP recipients. We can do both. If we can give, $40 billion to Argentina, or if we can afford $300 million for a new ballroom at the White House, and money, the exorbitant amount of money, frankly, that's being spent on ICE right now, so that we can deport people whose only crime is that they don't have legal resident status. I mean, if you have to choose between those things, can we not both choose to feed hungry people and to make sure that working class people can afford their health insurance? In one of the richest nations in the world, I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Go back to Lauren here.
Lauren Gibbons with Bridge again. I have a question for the representative, actually. So the USDA has said they wouldn't reimburse states for any funds covering SNAP benefits, and a lot of experts at the national level say states don't really have the funding to continue this long term. And I'm curious, as you were putting together your proposal, how long would that actually cover SNAP benefits, and also, is it realistic for the state to step in here?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And leading into your question, I want to emphasize that, nobody wanted to be here. House Democrats don't want to be here. The public we don't want to be here. Our system was not designed for us to be here. As the Attorney General highlighted, we have a backup plan at the federal level. We should not be here. This is unprecedented cruelty. So we shouldn't be here. But considering that we have a responsibility. I believe we have a moral responsibility to put the best interests of our constituents and the people of Michigan first. And if you cannot eat, there's not too much else you can do after that successfully. So my bill will provide benefits until the end of the year. It is a temporary fix. The amount of federal dollars that come into the state to support SNAP at this time, cannot be replaced with state dollars, and we shouldn't be in that position. But again, since we're here, while our Attorney General is litigating, while our congressional representatives are fighting, as I stated earlier, I cannot, in good conscience, not as a mother, not as a community member, not as a person of faith, just kind of do this and say, we just have to see how it plays out. So my bill looks at lapsed work project funds, or basically project money that wasn't spent last year, and I believe that's the same mechanism for the Senate bill. We have a rainy day fund. So is the situation ideal? No, it is not. But being able to tap into the resources that are available for the state of Michigan, because we have been good stewards, and is there. In this time of crisis, in this time of emergency, if this is not an emergency, if it's not a public health emergency, I don't know what is. So I do acknowledge it is not a long-term fix, and it shouldn't be. That's why all of us are coming together, doing all we can to pressure our colleagues, our Republican colleagues, to do what they were elected to do, which is take care of the people. And I want to reframe that a little bit, because it's not charity. SNAP is not charity. Our tax dollars pay for SNAP. It's our money. It belongs to to us, and the laws dictate that it goes to our most vulnerable community members. So SNAP is not charity, it's our right. It is the law. And while this unprecedented process, Brother Jerry mentioned, I just want to make it Brother Jerry.
It's the cookie.
Jerry
It's the
from-
cookie jar shape. I'm
It's
sorry.
your kind heart. It's your kind heart. Jerry from Gleaner remarked that this hasn't happened in 40 years. Okay, but we are here and we have a choice as lawmakers. We can wait it out and just see what happens. If we do that, people starve. People get sick. Some of our most vulnerable, they may die. Or we look at the money that we do have in reserve and we act now. And I believe that's what we have to do. Not ideal, but the other choice to me is unconscionable.
Come back to Clara, and then I got time for two more.
Claire Anderson, Detroit Free Press, another question from the representative. Do you think the Whitmer administration's move to direct $4.5 million to the Food Council is sufficient to blunt the impact of the SNAP pause? And have you heard anything from the governor about whether she wants to see a supplemental spending measure passed?
Yes. Well, I don't think anybody, and I want to be careful. I can't speak for the governor. I can't do that. That wouldn't be appropriate. But there are limits to what the executive office can just do without legislative action. So I'm grateful for the $4.5 million that's coming. I'm so grateful. Every dollar makes a difference, whether that's from the state, whether that's from charitable donations, whether that's neighbor to neighbor, just kind of looking out for each other. So I'm grateful for that. And I hope that this shutdown ends and we don't have to keep digging in further. But if it doesn't, and we always have to think in terms of, we can't just think 5 minutes in front of us. We have to be more responsible and more compassionate than that. So if this does continue to drag on, then no, that would not be enough. But within, what we want executives to do, because there are checks and balances, that is a much, much needed infusion of resources.
Right, yeah, Chance, up.
The Attorney General, give me comments on the FBI raids today in Dearborn, Easter. Did they let you know that they were coming?
We've been in consultation with the FBI in regard to this matter, and while I can't speak publicly to the details of it, I can just say that I'm very, very grateful for the FBI's work in protecting the community and keeping people safe. And I'm sure we'll learn more about the details publicly later, but I'm thankful for their good work.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here today. I do appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much. I have been told there's a truck coming this way through these doors at 11 o'clock. I've also been told, and it's not a joke, that it will be driven by Freddy Krueger. So if you do need to make a